Hi everyone, this is Bhargavi Jonnadula and you are watching me on Academy GMAT, your one-stop shop for everything GMAT. Today we have a very special guest. We have Bhargavi Jonnadula, a PGB student at ISB, one of the top global B schools, and I couldn't be more happier to have her with me in this interview. So let's move on with it, and I welcome Bhargavi. Bhargavi, it's great to have you here. And
Thank you
just
so
can you
much.
could yeah, and could you just give me a brief introduction of and tell us about more about yourself and what exactly are you doing and you were doing before decided to go ahead with your MBA points. So what made this happen?
So I'm studying at ISB in the core 23. And before that, I was a tax consultant at Deloitte for about 2.5 years. And
Wow.
apart from that, I was also doing a bit of modeling. I was freelancing and working for some fashion boutiques in Hyderabad.
Wow.
And I was mostly focused only towards ISB. So I tried building my profile around it. And it's only been a great journey since then.
Nice to hear you, Barry. Like that's all right. So that's pretty amazing. Like you have a very good career. So like what really led you to this idea? Like how did you move from the modeling side and wanted to go for MBA? What was the end goal here?
Um, I've always wanted to do something in the business line. So I wanted to get into a path that aligns both my interest for fashion and business in the same space. So on a long term, I'm probably looking at opening my own fashion brand or something that works around a bit of modeling and
Yeah.
grooming people. But the idea of business has sort of been imbibed in me as a kid when my mom had her own business and I used to handle it. So I
Wow.
knew that I wanted to get into business at some point. And I think, having a PGP on your career is only going to help you out, make that better. It just gives you the right resources to understand the business and maybe move to a place where you wish to be.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's really interesting to hear. And this is usually a notion that people with a non-engineering background find it difficult to get into a top B school. And so, like, did you face any major issues while starting applying for your MBA programs? What was your experience like?
So I was always very keen on getting or being a part of ISB. And I've done enough research and I realized that ISB always looks at the diversity that you bring in. So they look at people who come in from various backgrounds, saying there are a bunch of people over here who are doctors, there are people who are hotel management, who've been
Correct.
into hotel management. So when I know that ISB looks at people with diverse background, I only wanted to build my profile around it. So like there are quite a lot of commerce graduates who wish to get into MBA schools as well. But how can I make my profile stronger?
Yeah.
So that's where I started building on extracurriculars. So I've always like ISP, splits people into different areas and categories. Like one is the kind that actually who's been a complete scholar and who've been continuously studying, while
Correct.
the other kind is somebody who are into extracurriculars and were doing multiple things at the same time. So I somehow always saw myself in the other bucket. So I made sure I improved my profile in such a way that it is in line with ISP. So now that might be my commerce background, which is obviously a diverse compared to the
Yeah.
engineers, or the fact that I was into modeling or the influencer bit
Yeah.
that I've experienced. I've also been into learning a foreign language in French. I'm like 3 level
Wow.
certified in French.
Wow.
So I basically started, aligning different things in the same place. And ISB, with ISB, it's mostly about how you narrate your story.
Got it.
So
Yeah.
my story has been a love story with ISB. So I
ISB
just put it
itself.
out there.
I sure it will be a blockbuster in the coming years. So like it sounds really interesting because you covered all the objective aspects of an application. So the next question is very is like something like many aspirants have. So like, what gave you this confidence? Like you will actually apply to these top schools and you will obviously get here. Like you were pretty sure about this, right?
Very honestly, I did not have confidence. I've had like a failed story here as well because I'm a reapplicant. I
Okay.
applied the first time and I did not make it through. So I just made sure I improved my profile a little more. So obviously when you apply and then you just don't make it through, you just lose the confidence of being the good person or the right fit for the school.
Right.
So in my case, I had that and I somehow did not know how to bring that back. After talking to a bunch of other people who belong to different B schools, not just ISB, then I noticed that it's not just your successes that speak, it's also your failure.
Yeah.
So
Obviously.
in my case, there was a entire reapplication. There was an essay that comes in as a reapplicant, so I could show what has changed since the last time I applied. So I showed the entire struggle of what got me,
Yeah,
here, and that somehow helped me out. I think it's mostly about how you narrate your story that just acts as a
yeah,
huge part of where you are. And
yeah,
like everybody else talks, it's not a easy cakewalk for me. It's
yeah,
mostly
obviously.
been a struggle getting in here.
Got it, Bhagvi. It's a very nice story. And I am really enjoying it. Like, yeah, right. You were doing modeling, right? And at the same time, you're working at Deloitte. So, and then you realize that you want to go for an MBA. So, but there are so many aspects when it comes to applying for international MBA programs or top MBA programs. And the first one of that is the GMAT. How did you prepare for the GMAT? Do you have any tips or suggestions for the aspirants who are watching this video?
How I prepared is mostly because I was able to utilize the time that I had because of the COVID. So since COVID had hit and since I was working from home, I was saving about 2 hours in my travel. So
Wow,
I
yeah,
was able to use that time into preparation. And again, my GMAT story is not all easy because it's been a 4 year on and off preparation.
yeah,
So I do not want to break somebody else's courage of wanting to
yeah,
crack it in, let's say, 5, 6 months. It is possible. But with me, it's just that I was working on multiple things and I was not really able to, give out that time. So I
got it.
think for me, it's been a spread out process. But if you're asking me about tips, I think uh, probably the most obvious one is to practice a lot
Yeah,
and to just to do a lot of sample papers because exams like GMAT are adaptive based and you can't really anticipate how the questions are going to be. Let's say
correct.
you are writing CAT and you run through 10 years of papers, at least 3 4 questions from the 10 years will somewhere come into your
Got
uh
it.
you know or this thing. But with GMAT, I've only went through the official guide. I've been following the official guide and I've been using only that as my resource. I've always been somebody who prepares on their own,
Yeah,
but if at all you do need any support, an academy is offering you the best.
yeah, yeah. Got it. So, Bhargavi, like, thank you for explaining so much beautifully in a very structured manner. So, apart from this, apart from this question and questionnaire and this round, I just wanted to know where are you sitting at? I think it's a very beautiful background where you're sitting. And what is this place? Like, what is this, this place? What is this place called in ISB campus?
Yeah, so in ISB, we have 4 different student villages. It's basically where the student stay, it's where our accommodation is.
Wow.
So this is right outside my student village. I'll just show you around.
Yeah,
So,
it will be great for the viewers. Wow.
so
Yeah.
that's right outside my student village.
Yes, I think it's pretty calm and pretty silent there. I couldn't hear any papers.
Yeah, so usually, I mean, you have people walking around, but since there's a long weekend and it's been a vacation, so quite a few of them have gone on their own vacations or mostly just relaxing back in their studios. So later in the night, after 7 or 8, you'll just see a lot of people walking around and
Yeah.
going for walks and interacting. So this is like a common spot right outside in the garden where you
Okay.
could see people working on their assignments and projects
Wow.
together. So
So, Bhargavi, I think I have seen like you have changed the location as well. It's a beautiful background now also. So, I was going through your profile and I found your journey quite interesting. You have done a bit of modeling and you're also an Instagram influencer. And so, when and why did you decide to like quit a promising modeling career on hold and go for an MBA?
so it's not really about leaving one to do another. I mean, my modeling career, I could always go back, but then I was very keen on changing my role and, moving from a tax background to something into marketing. So
Okay.
I knew that I've spent enough time in taxation and that it's time for me to change functions. So
Okay.
I felt like doing an MBA at this point is, makes a lot more sense than to be just working in a place and, maybe like after 3 4 years, I look at an MBA. So it's not really about my modeling. It's that for that matter, I've been asked to do, shoots and all while I was still, studying.
Yeah.
So I could always continue my modeling parallelly, and I could always move to a different job and then try to work around it. But I just felt like at this point in MBA is the right option for me to change paths career wise. So
Got it. Yeah, because in the end, you want to open a fashion company, right? I remember.
yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, great. Thank you for sharing, Bhargavi. So, like getting a great career is also a lot about which schools do you apply. Again, मैं दोबारा बोल रहा हूँ. Thank you for sharing, Bhargavi. Getting a great career is also a lot because many aspirants look at that aspect. So, while applying for ISB, do you feel that your extracurricular and your non-cream background made a difference? Was it helpful or was it otherwise?
Um, I personally feel like ISB looks at you as what you are putting forward. I honestly think it's mostly about how you turn around everything that you've done in your life. So
Uh-huh.
let's just say you might be coming from, I've done my schooling from a local school in Hyderabad. I've done my undergrad in a local college in Hyderabad. So now these two put together, if you look at them, if you probably have to rank them on where they stand in the country, you might not be able to put them in a good place.
Yeah.
But it's also about how well you've done in your school or college.
Yeah.
So, like my extracurriculars in my school, where I've been into the cultural and sports captain during my schooling, and
Yeah.
during my undergrad, I've taken part in a lot of case competitions, and I've been out there extracurricularly and actively taking part in events.
Yeah.
So all these things just added up, saying it did not matter in which institute I came from, but it's about how much impact you've created and where you are.
Yeah.
So
But
I think for your question, I think it's mostly about what you've done and how it's added on to your life and your journey.
yeah, obviously it would help our viewers and also it is helping me also. Like I'm learning a lot from you also. So that sounds really interesting and like I will be very helpful for many of our viewers out there. And now coming to ISB, anything special about ISB that made you stick with it? And also like what all aspects do you consider while applying for choosing which B schools to apply for?
I think it's just gonna sound the same thing over and over again, but that's
Okay.
been my strongest reason for sticking to ISB. It's that ISB looks at you as what you're bringing onto the table, the
Yeah.
diversity that you're adding onto your batch, things that make you special, how are you different from others. All these things just add like extra stars on your personality.
On your
And
personality.
I was yeah, so I was looking at institutes that basically look at me as a whole and not just my school. So at ISB or GMAT or GRE just becomes one of the reasons or one of the aspects of choosing and selecting you. While let's say you write CAT or you apply
Yeah.
for other tier 1 and tier 2 B schools,
Yeah. B
they look
schools.
at your CAT scores as one of your major criteria to pick you.
Yeah.
In ISB, you could be somebody who's getting like a 680 GMAT score, or
Yeah.
like a 320 GRE score, but then you've got like exceptionally, you know, uh, you've been exceptional student, or maybe let's say you've been into doing a lot of extracurriculars, or let's say you've worked for the government of India. So things like
Yeah.
that just add on to your resume. They just become like checkpoints for you, and they just add a lot of value. So for me, I wanted to be in some place where they value me as a person more than just the grades.
Yeah.
So that's been my obvious choice. So for me, anything that looks at me as what I'm bringing onto, because all that I've done all my life should not go waste.
Yeah. Obviously. Yeah.
So if everything is just adding up as stepping stones for me to get to where I am, so why not?
Yeah. No.
So that's
That
been my reason.
Yeah, it's a very good reason. It's a very valid reason, I think so. So also like it seems interesting. Like and also like I have one question. Like, did you also reach out to your alumni of ISB like before coming to ISB or like and there are many students who complain that alumni are sometimes not very responsive. So like what advice would you like to give to the aspirants out in the world?
See, my only thing is once you're out of ISB, you just happen to be somebody who's just busy with your work.
Yeah,
It does maybe if you're texting them on LinkedIn, they might not be able to check them or
yeah,
respond to you. But let's say you are an ISB student and you are looking to reach out for alums, ISB gives you a lot of opportunities for you to interact with them on a personal basis.
Okay.
We've got like this entire portal where you just enter the company that you want to go, or
Okay.
any role that you're looking for. It gives you a huge list of all the alumni, or all those who've been a part of that company or doing a particular role, with their
Yeah.
name and phone number and their email ID. So you could just
Yeah.
directly reach out to them over, just a text on WhatsApp, and they will be helpful. Again,
Yeah.
it's not a 10 on 10 where you text 10 people and all 10 of them reply to you. It depends on people's convenience and their interest. But as far as I'm aware, almost everybody at ISB are very helpful. It's easier
Okay.
if you have somebody where you know them on personal basis, or a friend of friend who is a part of
Yeah.
ISB. It obviously adds on because it's just easier to get that connect than a completely random network. So maybe look for somebody who might know somebody, or you could
Yeah.
always ping me on, I mean,
LinkedIn.
yeah, you could just reach out to me. Yeah, sure. At least whenever I check, I'll be able to help you out.
Yeah.
And at least for me, I do get quite a few DMs on, what are they doing. But then my way of communicating of how ISB looks at it is through sessions like these, or the sessions that I sit with
Yeah.
the ISB admissions. So that's my way of sort of helping people out.
Okay. I can see you are sitting at a different location again. So this is quite beautiful. Like, can you explain what is this place called?
So this place is called the atrium, which is basically the central part of the academic block. So in
Okay.
different corners, we have our lecture theaters. And the
Okay.
idea is that when everybody are done with classes, there's a common spot for them to come. So we were told that the space is basically a common area for people to network. And ISB believes in a lot of networking, where you
Yeah.
build equations based on your network, and people got different backgrounds, and you just know that they're going to be helping you out at different times. So this space just happens to be that one. So I'll just show you around.
Yeah.
There's this huge lobby out here. You
Wow.
can
Yeah.
see there's
It's
one
very
group
huge.
interacting at the back.
Yeah.
Then
Nice. Is interesting.
yeah, and then right on the top, the area that you see,
Okay.
that is our
Okay.
library.
Library. Yeah.
So this is my
Great.
favorite spot on campus, because it's just free flow of air from everywhere. And then you will just end up meeting a lot of people. So it's a really good space for me. If ever I had to choose a spot for what I want to do, where I want to do it, ISB, this is going to be it.
No, no, I believe like our viewers would love this place and watching this. Sure. So now let's get back to the application part. Like different B schools have different application processes, and different essay pattern, different set of questions, and many other things. So how do you prepare for them? Like any suggestion for the viewers?
Well, the first thing is to understand where you're applying. Obviously, because different schools have different processes, it's
Correct.
better you understand which process goes with which school. So for ISB does bunch of info sessions at least once every month. So just keep an eye out for them. Look out on their websites. Any B schools websites, you can see their info sessions. They will talk about how the process is going to be. Just look out for them, and then you can attend them and ask them questions based on what you have. And other thing is, you could reach out to the alums of that particular B school, and they will obviously help you out with the process. Well,
Okay.
most schools, like the ones that go with CAT, or say the other sort of exams, the entrance exams, have a similar process of exam and then group discussions, or interviews and then interviews. So
Okay.
this is the process that most B schools have.
Yeah.
But with ISB, the process is you send out your first round of application with your extracurriculars, your work experience, your essays, your GMAT or GRE score,
Yeah.
and I think there's another one about your education background.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you add all these and then you send it out. Once you make it through, you get a call for an interview, and you have one round of interview out of after which you get your final admission letter.
Okay.
So that's the process for ISB. So my suggestion is to just look out for these info sessions and reach out to the alum wherever it's required.
Yeah. So like, well, that's a quite detailed answer that you have given. I guess this will take some time to sink in. And so let's not dig at any deeper at this juncture. Let me ask you one last question. What is the one golden advice to the aspirants who want to get into the top B schools? And maybe if you could share some personal anecdotes and experiences about your life at ISB and your interests, that would be really great for our viewers. Yeah.
So again, different B schools have different processes. So one would obviously be to understand what you're getting into, do enough research about the institute you're looking at. Just see if you have all the required information before you actually start putting in your effort. I've done one entire year of just research to know where I should be
Wow.
and
Okay.
what the school is looking for. So if that becomes the first point, the second point is to just review it as many times as you can. So you're done with, let's say, your essays. You
Yeah.
just want to get the essays reviewed as many times as possible so that you understand if your story is going out in the right direction. There are times where you probably just talk about something that you like and putting out a point, but then it's not really perceived that way.
Yeah.
So get it reviewed by a bunch of people to know if your point is, going past just the right way, and
Mhm.
then you could make changes. And I'd suggest to do anything that you're doing, before the deadline and not
Yeah.
keep it till the last minute. Because when you're on the last day of your admissions, you just, tend to forget a lot of things, and then you just go over the
Yeah.
place with all the things
Human
that you're
nature.
putting out.
Yeah.
So just give it enough time for you to, prepare for your application. With ISB particularly, when you know that their round one deadline is coming, they release the dates at least about 3-4 months before
Okay.
the actual deadline. So just keep an eye out for these deadlines. Try to, whatever you're doing in that space, just make sure it's all in line with where you're going. And if at all you know that you're doing, if you're getting into these, just sit down, think about all your thoughts,
Yeah.
make sure that you have a clear flow of your thought process on everything that you've done. Just make a list, big things, small things that you've done in your life, just anything that's adding value to you as a person. So just
Yeah.
list out all of them and then build your story around that,
Yeah.
because your story is all that talks, and even things that you think are not adding a lot of impact will actually add a lot of impact for other people. Let's say
Yeah.
my French,
Okay.
that has only been something that I was, very interested as a child, and I decided to get certified in it. But that French has gotten me the job that I want right now, because they are looking at French clients, and the fact that I know French adds on to, their requirements. So just big or small, however your interest lies, just put it out there, put your heart out there, and then you'll know you're just doing it.